Welcome to the E.A.T podcast, episode number 44. Today's guest, when he's not playing at the tables, you've seen him at the World Series of Poker, Bracelet Events host and commentator, also a sideline reporter during the main event. He can also be found on the PokerGo app. He's also newly engaged. Welcome back to the E.A.T podcast, three-time guest, Jeff Platt. Welcome back, buddy. How you been?
3 times, Jerry. I'm good, man. How are you? Thank you so much for having me once again.
I am great. This is a treat.
Great.
As you would say, dim the lights. Here we go.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Let's do it.
First and foremost, I got to say, congratulations on the engagement. I saw the social media post on Instagram on October 28th. Your post to the exact quote was, hard for me to find the words that could sum up both how happy I am and how lucky I am that it's Tanya, Lynn, and I are engaged. The pictures are great. The wedding will be fantastic. But the feeling of true happiness is knowing that life ahead with her will be everything. Jeff, you look happy. You look great. Tell me about her.
Well, first of all, thank you for the congratulatory wishes starting off on uh this topic. It's something that we're really happy about. I consider myself super fortunate just to have met her. We met on a dating app when she was in town in Vegas. She hadn't even moved to Vegas yet. We both had like the same 45-minute block of free time. She could have easily canceled. I could have easily canceled. So it's kind of, not to be corny, but written in the stars. And I feel very lucky and fortunate to have found her. And I thank you again for bringing it up and for the kind wishes. And the poker world's been extremely kind to me. Also, I'm still getting congratulatory nods.
I've seen all the comments. I think Daniel Negreanu was the first person to write congratulations to you. I was like, oh, there we go. He's hitting it hard right out of the gate.
My good friend Daniel Negreanu, I did go to his wedding. He and Amanda, they're the best. Don't mean to brag on the wedding invite, but I was there.
I gotta say, is this wedding planning begun yet? Is it gonna rival the Negreanu wedding that he had? Or are you gonna go low key? What are you guys thinking? Or are we not even there
I don't
yet?
know. We're gonna put off the planning for a little bit and start in January and just enjoy being engaged for now. Definitely don't want to try to fill the shoes of a Negroni wedding, so we'll probably just try to be a little different.
Okay. I gotta say, I saw the engagement ring. Very impressive. Very very nice choice he made there.
Thank you, thank you. I'm on a bit of a downswing in poker tournaments and kind of need the uptick in order to afford the ring. But hopefully we get there within the next couple of months.
So let me ask you: did you catch the Tyson Paul fight on Netflix? Whether you watched it live or did you catch it on a replay? Was it what you expected, or did it not go what you thought was gonna how it was gonna? Did it not go how you thought it would go?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jerry. I caught it in kind of a strange fashion. So the Tyson Paul fight came when we were shooting a brand new season of No Gamble, No Future, which will be out in a few months. Of course, we do the commentary kind of like it's a live show, so you see us in the studio. The players all wanted to watch the fight, which of course is completely understandable. So when the fight started, they stopped playing. Unfortunately for Brent and me, we still do the commentary because we're on a delay, just like we would be for a live stream. So when the players go on break to watch the fight, we're still doing commentary for poker action 30 minutes in the past. So it worked out to where we watched the first three, 4 rounds kind of on mute, in a small little TV screen in the bottom corner of our monitor, and then we were able to watch the rest of it, um, on a bigger TV with sound, the whole shebang. As far as thoughts on the fight, I was on Paul. I think Paul is the sharp side, the kinda easy-ish money side, and that's all I had heard. It's not like I tried to research this kind of a matchup. Um, Pretty boring actual fight, as we all know, was not fantastic. I think it was really cool to see Mike Tyson in the ring again. So I know these are very basic, standard thoughts, but nothing really jumped out at me. I thought, of course, Netflix had a hard time with the live stream, with buffering. I think they weren't as probably prepared production-wise as they should have been, not just from a technical standpoint with the mic issues. They had some kinda interesting commentary teams and decisions that they made, but to have live sports on a platform like Netflix, I think is a big win for everybody. So I was impressed by the overall nature of the broadcast. Just think they could have done some things a little bit better.
Who do you think he should fight next? I know that you after the fight was over, you saw Tyson make a comment towards his brother. You think that might be something we see down the road?
Yeah, I think so. I think any of these matchups are probably really good for boxing, right? I mean, I think Jake Paul, love him or hate him, has like revitalized the sport with these celebrity matchups and with bringing Mike Tyson back. I think it's making people more interested in, the Terrence Crawfords, Errol Spence's, even Ryan Garcia's of the world. So I think it's been really good for the sport. So if these guys, both Paul and Tyson, could fight some more and fight again, I think that'd be good. I'm not saying I would personally watch every fight, but
Yeah.
I think it's really, really good for boxing, even if the fights, like, aren't that great.
His brother Logan is a success story with WWE. From your
Yeah,
previous appearances on this show, we've talked about it. You have WrestleMania coming to Vegas in April.
yeah.
Have you secured your tickets yet?
I have not secured my tickets yet, but I've secured, the idea that I am going to WrestleMania because,
Okay.
Jerry, as you know, I cannot miss WrestleMania when it's in Las Vegas. Not only can I not miss 2 nights of WrestleMania, but I'm gonna be there the Friday night SmackDown before, I'm gonna be there the Monday Night Raw afterwards, and I was going to go with a friend to Indianapolis for Royal Rumble in February. Can't do that, doing another special No Gamble, No Future shoot, which will be really cool. But I do think I'm going to go to the first Raw on Netflix in LA at the Intuit Dome on January 6th. So I got
Yes.
a whole calendar. I need to catch up though. I'm again like we talked about last time, very casual fan, but in on like the big storylines, in on The Rock, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns. So I'm excited to get back into it.
So the big story and the big run that's going to happen next year is going to be the John Cena farewell tour. Uh,
Yeah.
do you think maybe breaking Ric Flair's record, or who do you think his final match should be? And do you think maybe he walks out with a belt that way and leaves it as a retirement type thing? Where do you think that whole angle might go for the year run that he's going to have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think they've gotta find a way for him to win once, right? I mean, it'd be pretty cool if Cena won the Royal Rumble and got his choice for a WrestleMania matchup for the title. Um, I don't know, like Cody Rhodes is on top of the world, so you don't necessarily wanna take that title away from him.
Right.
I think the possibilities, though, are endless. I think they could set something up really cool with John Cena and just a really big name, a CM Punk, a Drew McIntyre. Obviously, you probably stay away from Cody Rhodes and anything either bloodline is trying to do. But I think they could set something up cool for Cena to win it one more time.
Okay. Let's switch some gears now to the Dallas Mavericks. Are you happy with the way they're going right now? I know it's early; it's only 14 games in. Do you think it's a rebuilding year for them? Do you think it's maybe a playoff round or two and bust? Where do you think the Mavericks are this year?
It's interesting. You look at the just standings and the wins and losses, and of course, 7-7 is not great, especially in an absolutely loaded Western Conference. But you dig behind the record a little bit, and I think the Mavericks have played really well. They've got I think, top 5 defense when it comes to defensive rating. They've got a top 10 offense when it comes to offensive rating, using some more of the um, analytics. And in close games, they have not performed particularly well. A lot of that is just variance. You get a good look, you miss it at the end of the game, that's fine, and over the course of the season, I think that variance will even out a little bit. So to me, they seem like a top 4-ish team in the Western Conference. I think a fully healthy Oklahoma City can probably create some separation between them and the rest of the pack, but in the West, when you're going 2 through 10,
Yeah.
it's really hard to find that much, um, separation overall. I think it's a really, really competitive conference, and I'm, like, kinda happy with where the Mavs are at despite the slow start as far as wins and losses are concerned.
All right. I've had you on twice before. I've wanted to ask you this question and I never did. Now I got my chance. Are you a Jordan or LeBron guy?
Jordan guy for sure. I just think
Okay.
the best of the best of the best. Now LeBron has had an unbelievable career, and I'm super impressed, especially this year with what he can do on a night after night basis. With how old he is, I mean, LeBron is unbelievable, an absolute legend. But Jordan's number one for me. What about you?
I'm a Jordan guy too.
Yeah,
Listen, LeBron's been to the finals how many times and lost? I mean, Jordan's been there and never lost.
that's true. That's
Jordan's
true.
As a Knick fan growing up, Jordan was money. Jordan was the killer. Jordan
Yeah,
crushed hopes and dreams, and Akeem Olajuwon
yeah,
did that too for me back in '94. You went to USC, so you're a
yeah.
USC alum. Thoughts on Bronny James? Now, I mean, you could different ends of the spectrum on this. I mean, people say it was a wasted pick by the Lakers.
Hmm.
People say they took him because they didn't want to risk losing LeBron to a different team because he came out and said he wanted to play with his son. I mean, also you look at the guy's first basket. You would think he hit the game-winning shot in Game 7 of the finals. They cut down the nets for this guy. What were your thoughts on Bronny James, who's now in the G League?
Just don't you can't convince me that it's a wasted pick because it's a second round pick. And second round picks in the NBA, if you look back over the last, 15, 20 years, they have such a low percentage success rate overall. You find a gem here and there, a Jokic, for example, a Monte Ginobili, but like I just don't think if there's a 2% chance that your second round pick hits, but a 12% chance that LeBron ends up leaving you if you don't draft his son. Like, I'm just gonna draft his son all
Right.
day, every day, and I just don't care. You even sign him to a guaranteed contract, that doesn't matter either because it's, what, 4 years for, like, $4 million or something? That's gonna have no impact on your salary cap space either, so, like, to keep your superstar happy for the cost of a second round pick and $1 million a year or whatever it is, I think that's totally fine, and it just doesn't matter how he performs, really, how good he is. He's not gonna get meaningful minutes unless he actually deserves them, and then it turns out to be, a great pick. So I like the decision by the Lakers, and I can't you couldn't convince me it's a wasted pick if it's something that LeBron cares deeply about, because as we know, like, player treatment in the NBA is so important, especially nowadays, and superstars, man, they can just leave on a dime if one thing goes wrong or if one thing is not to their liking. So I think it's totally understandable that they would pick him.
One social media post, and the next thing you know, the team is getting blown up. I mean, that's the way things work in the NBA
Yeah.
nowadays. You just say, "I want to be traded," and that's it. You're gone. They'll find
Yeah, that's
somebody.
it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Let's move on to NSUS, which is pronounced as Answers. GG Poker also. They bought the World Series of Poker for $500 million. What are your thoughts on the deal now that it recently closed?
Well, first of all, good for you on the pronunciation. That's something I just learned like 2 weeks ago, and I was, like, in shock. I've been calling them NSYS or NSUS for the last, I don't know, 3 years since I've known that was even the name of the company, so bravo there.
Thank you.
I think this is great for poker. I think it proves the value of poker to spend $500 million on the World Series of Poker. I think shows you how valuable poker is, how valuable poker was to Caesars. I think GG has already changed the game. They've already had a pretty significant impact on the World Series, and this is just gonna be really great moving forward in so many different, um, arenas. I think, more importantly to the people watching this, the player experience is going to be much better at the World Series of Poker. They're gonna use this WSOP Plus app. I mean, it's just everything's gonna fall in line. It's gonna be very smooth. I'm really excited with how GG is going to run things at the World Series, and I think you'll see more and more of that over the next couple years. You know, we could talk about this for hours. It could be the sole topic of one podcast, but this is again a game changer in the poker world. I'm really excited to even be a small part of it. I can't wait for WSOP Paradise coming up next month, and I really can't wait to see how the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas grows over these next few years.
Let me ask you, obviously the plan spending this much money on something, this asset, you would think they're going to challenge EPT and WPT and have a
Mhm.
huge global expansion. Do you think they put a dent in those two or even overtake both of them and become this massive powerhouse where those two are now
Well,
suffering?
I'd say that you saw a little bit of a tease of what's to come, a trial run when Brent and I were doing the commentary for this alongside Natalie Bodie on the sidelines. When we went to LA to Commerce, Gigi brought a whole production crew out there just for a World Series of Poker circuit event. I don't mean to diminish that series, of course, in any way, but you know, you see 25 of those a year, the main event $1,600. But Gigi went nuts. They set up a whole stage, they brought in a whole production team, 30, 40 people from South Korea. They brought in all of their equipment because I think that proves that like they want to get in this game, right? And it's not just about the main event, which is the clear undisputed greatest poker tournament in the world, but they're really focused on developing the brand. So I do think, to your point, that means multiple highlights throughout the course of the year. You have the World Series of Poker in Vegas in the summer, you have WSOP Paradise in December in the Bahamas, and you're going to see other World Series of Poker branded events pop up throughout the year. Is it a direct competition between WSOP and EPT and WPT? Not direct in the sense to where they're like competing weekly, but sure, over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, like I think the WSOP, of course, wants to establish itself or retain its position as the premier brand in poker. Like I see them going pretty hard over these next few years, putting on more events, and just kind of showing us the value of that brand and how they plan to enhance it.
Let me ask you, the 2023 WSOP in Vegas was 95 bracelet events and another 20 online events, record setting fields, record setting payouts across the 6 or 7 weeks that the event was going on.
Yeah.
Uh, Two part. Is the World Series of Poker too long, or do you think it can actually get bigger?
It's a great question. I think people could easily argue both ends of it. I mean, in theory, if you told me that the World Series of Poker was going to be every single day of 2025, they would still do huge numbers, right? Like,
Yes.
and then also, if you told me it's only the World Series of Poker main event, well, it'd still be the greatest poker tournament in the world. I kind of think they found their sweet spot in the summer where there's not that much going on in Las Vegas, where they pick up themselves, of course, but they pick up the entire poker world. Like the summer is just it's just absolutely massive for the game. I think, in my opinion, and maybe that's just because of what we're used to, like, it's the perfect amount of time for the Summer Vegas series, especially if you're going to complement it with other events around the world, like, WSOP Europe, WSOP Paradise, WSOP Circuit here in the States and internationally, and then who knows what's to come as far as other, bracelet events can be concerned, but, I know that GG Poker are in the online arena, WSOP Online here in the States. They'll also offer a significant amount of bracelets, and I don't think that that's a bad thing in the years to come.
Okay. It's been about 13 years since the Black Friday in poker closing of the online sites. Chris Ferguson, Howard Lederer, two of the prominent figures that were in poker back then before Black Friday disappeared. Then they reappeared a few years later, and now you haven't heard much from them. Uh, do you see them around Vegas? Do they still play? And do you think they'll ever be fully forgiven and accepted back in the poker community?
Well, I think the answer to the last question is no.
Okay.
Do I see that? I have not seen them. Ferguson, I wanna say, was it pre-COVID, maybe 2019, maybe 2018, where he came back to the World Series and he played a decent amount. Everything I hear is that and, this is a little bit and this is more like secondhand, I wanna be able to prove this in a court of law.
Hmm.
The judge and attorneys would not be thrilled with me, but everything I hear was that, um, Ferguson was just kind of over here in his own land, had a piece of the company, sure, was promoting Full Tilt, sure, but was not a part of the chaos that went down, of the poor business practices that went on by Full Tilt. So, I think he has a better chance of being accepted, forgiven in the community. I think some of the big names already have done that. I'm not sure if the same can be said for Lederer. I don't know how much involvement that he had. I think it's a really important sign that if we haven't seen them over the last couple of years, do we think we're going to in the future? Probably not. I mean,
I'm
I think they had a little window to come back when it probably wasn't terrible for Ferguson. He received a little bit of hate here and there, but I just think they're out and they're just not into it
I'm
anymore.
I'm waiting for the ESPN 30 for 30 or the Netflix special like Netflix has been doing with other things lately, and maybe they'll come back in the spotlight and we'll see them again. I don't know, but
If
two
you can
prominent
get everybody
figures.
for that, that's a great, great, great Netflix show. And you don't have to like have it appeal to just poker fans, right? That would be
Right,
a fascinating story for the most casual of viewers. I think that'd be incredible.
right. Uh, Back then, poker was played across the country like it was nothing until Black Friday happened. Do you think we'll ever see poker like that across the US again? I know there's a few states that have online poker today, but do you think eventually we'll see it expand where it's all 50 or even half?
I think we're in line for more expansion, which is a really good thing, of course. I think, as you have probably seen, Pennsylvania is next to join the multi-state intergaming interstate gaming agreement to where they can play in the same player pool as Michigan and New Jersey and Nevada. And it's just kind of like that domino effect, right? Once you saw Michigan and Pennsylvania do it, like it will trickle down. I mean, sports betting has taken off. It's a
Right.
great example. Obviously, it's taken off a lot faster. There's a lot more interest in sports betting than in poker. I think that it's hard for me to see a path towards federal legalization at this point. I think it'll continue to be state by state, just like it is for sports betting. I could see an avenue to where the states that are allowed to play could rejoin the global player pool,
Okay.
the international market. I think that that is more likely than it all of a sudden becoming legal in all 50 states. So
Okay.
I think most likely is just we continue with the state by state approach, this combined player pool in the US. The second most likely is that those states are now allowed to join the international player pool. And then third place would be, federal legalization in the US. But I think a really important sign is GG buying the WSOP. I think they're going to put a lot of effort and money into this, and so hopefully the landscape continues to grow.
Okay. Politics on this show is usually a no-go, but with with former President Trump and now President-elect Trump talking about
Yeah.
no tax on tips, I have to ask you, what are you hearing about this in the light of the Vegas community? Is this a positive? Was this something that people talked about a lot? Do you think it'll help the casino business, not just in Vegas, but around the country?
I think it'll help a little bit. I wish I had a job where I could get tips after this after this news. But what also started to come out, Jerry, in the weeks leading up to the election, and it's very hard to tell what's real and what's fake out there nowadays, is that Vice President Harris was also going to enact some kind of no tip or no taxes on tips policy. So I'm not sure if there was really going to be a drastic change. Maybe there's changes to how fast that could be implemented. I know that. Uh, the workers that I have talked to at casinos are very excited about this. Um, this changes the game for them. This keeps them in that kind of the industry that they're in, as opposed to looking out to others. I mean, this is a bump in salary for them for sure. The whole tips thing. I mean, we're in Houston right now at Champions Club, and we have one player who's she lost, maybe 200K ish the other day and tipped maybe 25K is
Wow.
which is, like, phenomenal to think about, and she tips all the time, and it makes the dealers want to work here. They want to work here anyways. This place is great, et cetera, et cetera. They love their jobs. Um, but imagine that, like, they're, like, inspired to come to work and to do better.
Yeah.
And I think that'll just have a trickle-down effect throughout the entire country. When it comes to poker specifically, we want being a dealer in poker to be looked at as a really good, solid job. I'm really impressed with what dealers could do. I could never, ever do what they do. It's certainly not a position to be looked down upon, but I want that to be an appealing job for dealers. When you go internationally, like when I went to WSOP Paradise last year, the dealers there were from the international pool. So usually dealing the EPTs, WSOP Europes of the world. They are phenomenal dealers in part because they really want to be there. I mean, I was talking to one dealer who just the power to, like, hold a bracelet in his hand, and he said to be able to deal with the bracelet on the line, like, that really meant something to him, and so imagine if all of our dealers at the main World Series in Vegas were like that versus a lot. Now, a lot are, and a lot are spectacular, and a lot do it for the love of the game, but then there are plenty because the World Series has to hire so many people in America that are temp jobs and they don't care, but if we transform that, that will help immensely, and I think the no taxes on tips policy will just help accelerate that.
Is there a lot of excitement in Vegas for the Oakland Athletics or the whatever they're going to be called, Vegas baseball team, and the stadium that's now being built where the Tropicana used to be?
I tell you what, there is so much more excitement for the thought of an NBA team
That was where I
that
was going
hasn't even
next.
been officially announced than there has been for the Athletics, who actually have a deal supposedly to come to Las Vegas. It's a deal that's not done, still has some hurdles to go through. You hear a lot of bad things about the A's owner. I have one friend, you might know him, Eric Baldwin, terrific poker player, loves the A's for whatever reason, and he is pumped. He is ecstatic about the A's coming to Vegas. That's the only thing I've heard from somebody in person at a poker tournament, and you know this, I mean, at a poker tournament, you talk about a bevy of subjects, and it just it never comes up. I mean, I'm indifferent about it. I don't love that they're coming. I don't hate that they're coming. It's just kind of whatever to me. I'm a little scared at what the construction will be like and the strip traffic that comes after that, especially based on all we've dealt with F1. But a baseball team in Vegas, I'm telling you, it's at least from my perspective, small sample size, of course, but it has no buzz
No
whatsoever.
buzz. All
Yeah,
right. All right. But yeah, I mean, Vegas is becoming the sports capital of the world now that there's two teams
yeah.
there, and there's going to be two more. I mean, it's F1 has an event there. That was a success. I mean, it's Vegas is buzzing, definitely buzzing.
Yeah, I think Vegas is really buzzing. The F1 thing, I think you would get a lot of pushback. Financially, for them, success. For the city, success. For TV rating, success. I think if you were to talk to the small business owners in Las Vegas, especially around the Strip, who were impacted by F1 and the traffic and construction, they would say, "Absolute failure. We hate this. Please never do it again." I think for the corporations, the casino corporations, they did fine. I think the dealers on the Strip, while they were subject to an incredible amount of hassle throughout the months leading up to it, they did really well that weekend as far as tips are concerned. Um, but I don't think it was as great as they imagined it to be when they created it. They seem to do a better job this year as far as the construction is concerned. It's only been a hassle these last few weeks or so. But man, last year was an absolute disaster. Now the actual event seemed to be great, but the build up to it was terrible, and I still think that they're dealing with fallout from that from the community.
Since we last spoke, you've had you said before you really haven't had success lately, but you've had some poker success. Hendon Mob has your total live earnings just over $800,000. Mid States Poker Tour Venetian 1,100 no limit hold'em win for 100,000. World Series of Poker Circuit Online Ring $215 no limit six max event for 18,689. Besides obviously a WSOP bracelet, which is everybody's dream, what else are you
Yeah.
looking to strive to accomplish at the poker table?
Well, this is it's going to sound cliche, corny, whatever word you want to use. I want to play well at the poker table. I know that sounds like super simple, really
Hmm.
difficult, right? It's really
Yes.
difficult to play well and to look back at your play and not see an overwhelming amount of mistakes. Can't be perfect. Never ever would ask for that. But I want to be able to sit down and focus and concentrate and make good decisions on a hand by hand basis. And I don't think I've done that over the last month or two, and that's probably why that stood out in my mind. The results this year, yeah, a little downswing, but they've been fine. The results you mentioned, yeah, those were nice. Like I'll take those. I genuinely thought I played well in those events and also put in the work. And I've put in a lot of work lately. I hope to put in a lot of work over these next couple weeks. I'll play in the mini main at WSOP Paradise. I'm excited for that. But I really wanna dive in and play well and get some wins, and it doesn't really matter if the win has a brand associated with it. Of course, like you said, WSOP bracelet. Yeah, that's always the dream, but, um, just wanna notch some Ws, get some trophies, but again, most importantly, just wanna play better, play well, play to the very best of my abilities, think through hands, don't, um act too quickly, all of that stuff. That's what's weighing on me right now as far as on the felt success is concerned.
Okay. Rounders 2. Do you ever think we'll see that movie? I know that's a big discussion in the poker world. It's one of the best movies, if not the best poker movie of all time. Do you ever think we'll see Rounders 2?
Yeah, I do. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm such a fan and like I want to see it so badly. By this point, they would have perfected a script, right? If it's
Right?
been this long, we're approaching 30 years. I mean, 25 or 30 years. Like I think they'll find a way to get it done, and I'm hoping the dream is that there's some sort of storyline with the World Series of Poker main event, and they need the sideline reporter, and I'll
There we
I'll be in
go.
yours too, and then I can just go ahead and retire Jared. It's all downhill from there.
After that, it's done. You've made it. It's over.
Mhm.
You're good with a small part in that movie.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Just a real, maybe just interviewing Mike McDermott. Yeah, then we'll be good to go.
Okay, in the past, we've discussed your Mount Rushmore of poker. I want to ask you if you could play at a final table with five other people, dead or alive. Doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a poker player. It could be famous politician, famous actor, anybody. Who would you have at that table with you?
Well, if I get 5,
You get
I'm gonna
five.
go my first one's gonna be somebody who you might not expect just because he tells such great stories. I've gotten to know him a little bit here in Houston. It's Dewey Tomko, and I know you said, dead or alive, so Chip Reese, Doyle Brunson, of course, come to mind, but Dewey traveled with them
Hmm.
throughout, and he just has the most amazing, incredible stories. So I think I would go with Dewey Tomko and just want to live. Anytime I get a chance to talk with Dewey Tomko, he's got Stewie Younger stories as well. Like that's something I want to take advantage of. So I would have him as one of my 5. For the second one, I'm going to go the celebrity route. Kevin Hart has fallen in love with poker over these last, I want to say like 10 years or so. So I think to have him exposed to the game is a dream for us. I think it's very, very good when you get the mainstream celebrities, involved. So I think that's 2. Number 3 is Jason Koon for me because of how much I admire him as a poker player. I think he's not only the best of the best, but like he puts the work in on the felt, puts the work in off the felt. His fitness and nutrition routine is just like you can just look up to that guy in so many ways imaginable. And then 4 and 5, I have to put in Daniel Negreanu and Phil Hellmuth because they're the legends. They're the goats. I've been fortunate enough to become friends with Daniel over the years, like we talked about. Anytime he can get in a room with Hellmuth and can just kind of poke at him a little bit, that's great. For pure entertainment value, you have got to have Phil Hellmuth at a table. The potential of a Phil Hellmuth blow up, I mean, kind of outweighs everything that you have going on. So that's kind of my dream final table is Dewey Tomko, Kevin Hart, Jason Kuhn, Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth.
Okay. Like you said before, you're currently in Houston, Champions
Yeah,
Poker Club, Texas. Tell us about the event that you're a part of right now. I've watched the past couple of nights on the
cool.
Poker Go YouTube channel. Commentary's been great with you and Brent Hanks. Tell us a little bit
Thank
about it.
you. Yeah, this is the Texas PLO Roundup. So Poker Going Champions Club here have established a great relationship, in my opinion, to where the PGT comes here, the Poker Go Tour comes here twice a year. We come for the Texas Poker Open in the spring, and now we come for the PLO Roundup here in the fall. So this is a $3,300 buy-in, a $1 million guarantee, first ever Millie guarantee for a PLO main. And here in Texas, this room really stands out to me. It's a really nice hotel. It's a really nice bar. It's a great restaurant. The food is not, I say this all the time. You probably heard me on the stream. The food is not just great for a poker room. The food is great, period. Chef Connie, the chef that they brought in, was at one of Dallas's top steakhouses, Three Forks, for years. And somehow they got her here. And she's just magnificent, and so come for the food if nothing else. Come for the bar, to hang at the hotel, to be in the city of Houston, and then the poker action, as you've seen, I mean, my god, if you play PLO, if you know the rules and you have a pulse, I would strongly encourage you to come down to Houston. This tournament will be a blast, it'll be wild. I'm really looking forward to the commentary side of it, so we start that on Thursday. We have another cash game stream today. Brent and I go back to Vegas tomorrow for a celebrity poker tour event and then come right back here on Red Eye, uh, so we can be here for day one of the Texas PLO Roundup main event. There are a couple PGT high rollers afterwards. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really compelling content. I'll be honest with you. I've been kind of down on PLO. I find it a little bit boring, but the action here has ramped it up significantly in my mind. So I think it'll be exciting.
I gotta say, I was watching the other night. The bomb pots
Yeah.
were crazy, where people are just putting in, everyone's putting in $500, getting their cards, and building massive pots at the end of the stream. I mean, you could be down 30,000, and two hands later, you're now even. It was
Yeah.
insane.
I mean, this is a 25-50 game, and by the end of the night tonight, we're gonna see multiple six-figure pots, which is just outrageous to think about.
Let me ask you: Is there's a lot of unknowns there? Obviously, you bring in the Phil Hellmuth, you bring in yourself, you bring in Brent, you bring in the Josh Aurier, uh, but there's a lot of unknowns. Are there a lot of good poker players in Texas? What's the Texas poker scene like compared to the Vegas poker scene? Is it comparable?
No, I don't think it's comparable. I mean, that's of course, with all due respect to the players in Texas, it's a very different game. There are good players here for sure, no question about it, some of whom are featured on our stream. But the action is very different. In Vegas, if I'm playing a tournament and let's say it's a $600 buy-in, 2 or 3 people at my table are going to have a good baseline sense of GTO. Here, well, the 2 or 3 players at every table might have an idea of GTO, like, it just doesn't matter because the action is just so different. It's so ramped up. The opening raises sometimes to 10x instead of 2. It's just a totally different game that you're playing here, whether it's tournaments or cash games, but especially cash games. I mean, even a 5-10 game in Vegas nowadays is filled with regs, and it's very serious, and it's, like, again, very GTO, but here it's just like blast off mode.
Yeah, that's what
It's
I've seen.
it's
I've seen that the past two
yeah,
nights.
it's incredible. I mean, they say, Texas heads up is 4 to a hand, Houston heads up is 5 to a hand. I mean, the game is just so different. That's why poker continues to boom because it continues to expand in other locations, and the poker scene in Texas is just absolutely surreal. It's crushing.
You've mentioned that you're going back to Vegas for a celebrity event. You've mentioned that you're going to Paradise for that event. What else do you have in the pipeline that's coming out soon?
Yeah, so we had that celebrity poker tour out here for the Texas PLO Roundup, going to Sacramento for the Run Good Poker Series. They have their Dream Seat Invitational. If you win a ring throughout the course of the last year, you win this tournament, you make your way into the PGT Championship. That's at Thunder Valley, another one of my absolute favorite places. Then off to WSOP Paradise, and then in January, we kind of start everything over again, right? We have our PGT Last Chance. We have the PGT Championship, which is one of my favorite events of the year. We have the PGT Kickoff, Poker Go Cup, Borgata mixed in, another stop here for the Texas Poker Open. So it all leads up to what'll be a fascinating World Series of Poker, and I'm just happy to kind of be involved in this world, especially as we continue to grow.
Jeff, I got to say, I've had Phil Hellmuth on this show. I've had Daniel Negreanu on this show. I've had Chris Moneymaker on this show, and I've had yourself on the show 3 times now. I might need to rethink my Mount Rushmore of poker after all of this, but I can't thank you enough for coming on. I can't thank you enough for discussing a variety of topics. E.A.T is encompassing all topics. That's what it stands for, and you certainly crushed it out of the park today. You're an amazing guest, a great friend to the podcast. What do you want to plug before we get out of here? I can't thank you enough.
Well, first of all, thank you, Jerry, for having me, and please never ever put me above Negroni or Helmuth on any kind of Mount Rushmore list. But notice how I didn't say Moneymaker because that guy, no thanks. Uh, as far as plugs promotions, if you just follow me on social media on X at Jeff Platt, on Instagram at Jeff Platt1, and you'll kind of see what I'm up to on a day-to-day basis. I always say this, but I really want to try to be a little better at the content creation side of things for me personally. And so hopefully I can give you all a behind the scenes look at what's going on kind of in my world from not just a playing standpoint, but a broadcasting standpoint as well. So always a treat, Jerry, and thank you again for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Follow Jeff on Instagram at JeffPlatt1. Follow Jeff on X at Jeff Platt. You can find him on the Poker Go app. You can also find him on the Poker Go YouTube channel. Jeff, huge thank you again. Huge thank you to Restream.io and Spotify for podcasters for distribution of this podcast. Again, Jeff, I can't thank you enough. Until next time, everybody, that'll wrap up episode